everyone, to our inaugural Silicon Boardwalk meeting, forum, conference, panel discussion, book talk, reception, and we have so many people who registered for this event. Believe it or not, we had almost 100 people registered. So I think that shows a real sign of support for what this conference is all about. It's about the future of Atlantic City and what the opportunities are and what the challenges are. So we're going to be talking about that quite a bit today. Also, I'm going to be doing a quick book preview of my new book, Silicon Heartland, which talks about cities that are on the rise that are, in some cases, similar to Atlantic City, and in some cases, very dissimilar. So we'll be getting into that. And then we're going to be going to one-to-one interviews with all of our speakers who are lined up here in the front. If you want to meet any of them, they're all here in the front. So we're going to be doing one-on-one interviews with them, kind of snapshot interviews, 5 minutes each. And then we're going to do a Q&A roundtable with these speakers. So they're going to be positioned here. We're going to do the interviews here and the panel discussion here, and then we're going to open it up to everyone. So we want to have everyone get your questions ready because we really want this to be an interactive session. Okay? Now, if anyone needs to leave, the two doors that are open are this door and this door. Don't go out in the middle because you're going to be videographed going out in the middle. We're videotaping this program and we're going to be sharing it out with our entire network. So I think I neglected to introduce myself, but my name is Rebecca Fannin. I'm a journalist and I'm an author with a couple of books, including a new one, which you'll be hearing about in a moment. So I would really like to thank all the people who made this event possible. Many of them are here in the front row. Louis Hanna, Evan Sanchez, Elizabeth Tenarek, Stockton University, Ren Parikh. I hope I'm not missing anyone. Andrew Walgus, Jim, Rutala, Lauren Moore, Jane. Thank you very much. All right, so I would like to ask our Stockton University CEO, Brian Jackson, to come up and say a few welcoming remarks for everyone. So let's give him a hand, some applause. Okay.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to put this on here. Can you hear me okay? All right. Before I get into my remarks, just as a follow-up to Rebecca's comments, a little housekeeping. If anyone needs to use the restroom, you go out this side door and along the long corridor here to the right, you'll find restrooms for men and women. We also have, there's areas if someone needs to get something to drink or what have you, there's some spots over there as well with concessions. So again, good afternoon and welcome to Stockton, Atlantic City. We formally opened this campus back in the fall of 2019 with over 300,000 square feet of space, 879 parking spaces, and over $170 million in investment here in Atlantic City. This September has been really an incredible time for us as we welcome 2,200 new undergraduates and over 400 graduate students to our total population of just over 9,000 students, as well as our roughly 1,500 employees here at the university. We've also moved an additional 400 students into our new $69 million, six-story, 130,000 square foot residential building just a couple of blocks down the street from here, further expanding our geographic footprint and economic impact within the university district to over 900 students now living here in the beautiful Chelsea neighborhood of Atlantic City. And with nearly 190 courses offered this fall, we've expanded our enrollment here with students taking classes here in Atlantic City from about 1,300 students last fall to nearly 2,000 students this fall. This is in large part due to the School of Business really greatly expanding their presence here in Atlantic City And I want to thank Jane and her colleagues within the school and our dean for their phenomenal work, which includes, we now have a satellite office here at the Atlantic City campus for the dean and the School of Business. And I believe the dean is planning to spend about 40% of his time here in Atlantic City. Over the last several years, Stockton has also sought out innovative collaborations and partnerships which support our mission as an anchor institution, such as establishing the Community Reporting Lab in conjunction with the Press of Atlantic City, the Esports Innovation Center, which you'll be hearing a lot more about. Just heard some good news today about the Esports Innovation Center and some a new classification that you received, so that's good news. Our work with the ACPD and the City of Atlantic City in establishing the CompStat and CityStat, and our new Economic Development Center, which will be focused on job opportunities for building success, funded by a $1 million grant that we received from the Department of Labor and Workforce Development. Our leadership in supporting the local community and economic development corporations, and programs like Goals Gear Up and our Atlantic City Summer Experience, otherwise known as Live, Work, Learn, which provide learning and professional development opportunities for our current and future students. And the numerous community engagement initiatives impacting local neighborhoods, schools, service organizations, youth and seniors. And those are just to name a few initiatives that Stockton is involved with in Atlantic City. So as we celebrate our 5th successful year of teaching and operations here in Atlantic City this fall, our 5th anniversary, consideration is now underway to determine how Stockton Atlantic City should enhance its impact in the future and whether there is to be a phase 3 on this 2.25 acre site right next door to us, which is the Hartford and Albany Avenue parking lot. Stockton does not own that property, but would once again partner with our dear friends at Atlantic City DevCo in the development of that project. We were fortunate that Stockton received $1 million as part of our fiscal year 24 state appropriations to assist us with the beginning planning of what could be phase 3. And our new president, Joe Bertolino, likes to be called President Joe, has formed a working group comprised of several members of the Stockton University Board of Trustees, alumni, business and community leaders, as well as students, faculty, and staff. And their primary goal will be to select an experienced firm to conduct a feasibility study. So in closing, I just want to say that I think you're in for a real treat this afternoon when you get to hear from all of these extraordinary individuals. And in spite of all the work that still needs to be done here in Atlantic City, we are so fortunate that we have many dedicated and talented individuals who believe in Atlantic City and who are creatively investing public and private resources into new development projects and innovative initiatives, which long-term will strengthen and diversify our local economy. So again, I hope you enjoy this afternoon's summit, and thank you for being here, and thank you for being here at Stockton Atlantic City.
I'm a journalist, as I said, and I'm an author, and I'm a trend spotter. I've been spotting trends around the world for about 20 plus years, including even China. I am originally from the Heartland, Ohio, in fact, and I've come a long way from those roots in Ohio of farmland and Appalachia and Southern Ohio and the Ohio River, and going to places like New York City early on in my career, and then Silicon Valley, and then China, and a few books later. So 4 books and going. And along the way, I've been able to have some fun with this too, like this Meet Me in Atlantic City tune by Bruce Springsteen, which I think kind of sets the pace here, sets a tone. But maybe everything that dies someday comes back. So are we talking a little bit about Atlantic City in this case? I think so. And as I mentioned, it's been a very interesting career from New York City, living in the Riviera building, up in Washington Heights, 157th Street and Broadway. So I have lived in places that have not been the greatest to live in. And I stayed there for 10 years until the drug abuse and the gunshots became too much, and I finally moved. But I did stay for 10 years in this beautiful Riviera building, built in 1910, around 1910. And from New York City, I followed the tech bubble to Silicon Valley and ended up in a place called Burlingame, which is halfway between Palo Alto and San Francisco. And we've been hearing a lot about San Francisco dying elsewhere, even India. So during COVID, I could not travel anymore to China like I'd been doing regularly, and could not travel overseas, in fact. So I put my trendspotting hat on again, and I began to discover a new region outside of Silicon Valley where things were beginning to bubble up again. And so I went on a very lengthy road trip in my Honda Element, which is here today, by the way, in the garage across the street. Is still traveling. But this journey took me to all of these places and more, about 20 cities, during COVID, actually, and doing interviews with everyone from mayors to entrepreneurs to community builders to investors as well. And that led to my new book, Silicon Heartland. And now that's leading to a series of events that are connected to Silicon Heartland, like Silicon Boardwalk here today, Atlantic City Innovation Summit. And we have a number of people here who are going to be sharing their views on what Silicon Boardwalk means to them and what needs to be done in order for it to reach fruition. And on the side here, I would like to give a special thanks to all of the supporters and sponsors of this event. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. AC DEFCO, Stockton, Conduit Community Capital, Authentic City Partners, Ideal Institute of Technology, and more. So thank you. Now, this is City 21 of my journey through the Heartland. And I'll give Atlantic City a little bit of the Heartland edge because it is similar to some of the comeback cities that I was discovering in my reporting and research for Silicon Heartland. Has some of the same issues, but some very different issues as well. So I put comeback city ? And then we're going to be exploring that question mark today. So I think many of you already know some of these Silicon Boardwalk advantages, and I list them here. These are very, very core to this idea of a Silicon Boardwalk here in Atlantic City. And by that, I'm talking about, you've heard of Silicon Angle, you've heard of Silicon Tiger, you've heard of Silicon Dragon. These are different markets that are kind of imitating the Silicon Valley. Now, I'm not saying that Silicon Boardwalk is going to imitate Silicon Valley, but it's going to develop its own kind of technology innovation. And as I've listed here, there's several new ideas that are coming forth here in Atlantic City, like aviation, esports, wind energy. There's also a lot of benefits, such as having this core sector of the casino and the gaming revenue. A lot of places don't have that core sector that you can build upon. So leveraging that is a real plus for Atlantic City. A few other pluses, the oceanside locations, which sometimes, gets overlooked. I don't know, oceanside, city by the sea, proximity to metros, Philadelphia, Trenton, even New York City, Wilmington. Okay, now in doing interviews with a number of you for getting this program together, these are the common themes. I was hearing time and time again, these are, and you know them, so I'm not going to belabor them, but I'll just list them here so we are aware that these are the issues, or some of them, that we're dealing with. Now, what I'd like to stress here is what causes a market to become sort of a tech hub, to become a ignited place, right? A place where entrepreneurs want to go to and want to settle, and a place where venture capitalists want to invest in. So couple these: brain gain, diversity, cost of living, opportunity. So in my travels, I have discovered several gainers in the Heartland. Columbus is a big gainer. Indianapolis is a gainer. Pittsburgh is a gainer. And I'll get to the reasons why they are gainers. And then next, coming up, Dayton, Buffalo, Birmingham, Tulsa. And I will also share some reasons of why I think they're coming up. Innovation catalysts. So what causes a place to become a hub? All of these ideas. University anchors, you've got that already with Stockton. Training for new jobs, career pathways. We also have a trend that is the context for this whole idea of emergence of Atlantic City: diversity, urban renewal, culture, art, creativity, grit, right? Entrepreneurial resources, community leadership. We have a number of these ingredients already here, but they need to be developed further. So what are some of these issues that need to be developed further? Right here: narrow the opportunity gap, rebuild infrastructure, develop lifestyle amenities. We're going to be hearing today from people who are helping to build out that ecosystem, helping to build out those lifestyle amenities, changing the mindset to a more confident, bold thinking, to the kind of people that I've seen emerge in Silicon Valley and in China, a Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, a Jack Ma, those kind of people. There are some here in the room today that I think we're going to be hearing from later today, maybe not quite as well known as Jack Ma or Elon Musk, but they've got the ingredients. These are comeback issues for the Heartland. Diversify the economy. I think Brian already mentioned that, the importance of diversifying the economy. We know diversifying from casinos and gaming is a big issue here because there's a lot of new competition. You have to be able to move forward. Okay, this chart, good luck. But I will point out a few interesting observations. Philadelphia is an up-and-comer. Not far from here. Philadelphia's got a lot of pluses going for it: 9.3% population gain. In terms of its tech talent, its rate very, very high. The 43.9 up there is its rank and is its score. And the third point over here, ranked 26. They're ranked 26th in the nation for new tech talent. New millennial type of tech talent that's emerging. So many of these Heartland markets are not, they're not in the top 10. They're more like 26 to 40, 45 or something like that. So this is an early trend, but I would also like to highlight the next. These markets have been highlighted as next tech markets. That are attracting new talent, that are attracting new venture capital, that are attracting new sectors, attracting jobs like Dayton and Tulsa and Omaha and even Buffalo. So these are markets that are ones to watch, and they are on the cusp of becoming much bigger and much more important in our U.S. economy. So I think one of the ingredients that I've seen for these tech clusters, why it's working for them, is specialization. For instance, Columbus has insurance. Nationwide insurance is in Columbus. Cincinnati's got Procter & Gamble, so you've got supply chain and sustainability. Cleveland has Cleveland Clinic, so you've got biotech. Pittsburgh has got AI robotics, partly because of Carnegie Mellon. Indianapolis has SaaS, because SaaS, this is software as a service. This is Salesforce is very big in Indianapolis. I was just there about 10 days ago at another conference. Detroit, Industry 4.0 and mobility. Of course, that makes sense because of the automotive strength. Youngstown has turned itself around from a steel town and has gotten into 3D printing in a big way. Buffalo is getting into advanced manufacturing. Milwaukee is into tooling. All of these places have specializations. Atlantic City, so I put this down, aviation, esports. I know there's more than that we're going to be hearing from more today, but these are some of the tech specialties that are emerging in Atlantic City today. FinTech is another area. Okay, so in tracking the tech trends, you've got to track where the money is going, of course. So where is the venture capital going? There's still a huge gap. 2/3 of the venture capital money goes to 3 markets, and that's New York, California, and Massachusetts. But the middle states are gaining, particularly the Great Lakes states. Those 6 Great Lakes states that are surrounding, Lake Erie, Lake Superior, Lake Ontario, they have real strengths, and the venture capital in those markets has expanded 63% in 10 years. So watch those Great Lakes states and watch how the money spreads from Silicon Valley. It's already come down from 75% to about 68% in the last few years of the money that was going to New York, California, Massachusetts, come down to 68% now. It's a long way to go. Okay, so what do you need in order to become a real Heartland market? John Chambers, who I interviewed for my book, says you've got to disrupt or you're going to be disrupted. Okay, so that's a lesson for Atlantic City. Bill Nemeth, who's a mentor at Jumpstart in Cleveland, says you got to think bold, you got to think big. Unfortunately, there is a culture of diminished expectations in the Heartland. A culture of diminished expectations. Does Atlantic City have that? Okay, cities that are growing and not. These are just the population increases over the past decade. And as you can see, Columbus is a real gainer. Columbus is a gainer because of Ohio State University, because the Intel plant, the new Intel semiconductor plant outside Columbus is having a big impact. And a number of startups have gotten going there because a venture capital firm from Silicon Valley moved to Columbus, and they've invested in 60 startups in the Columbus area. This gives Columbus a real boom because startups hire people, they create jobs. And that's what we're seeing in some of these markets. So not all of them are gaining, as you can see. San Francisco has lost 7.5% population in the past 2 years. Whoa, not great. And many other cities are struggling. Cities getting it right. What do? 2 tails. Who could name the slide on the bottom? What city is that? What city is the one on the top? Okay, what's the one on the bottom? No, close though. Yeah, Miami, yeah. Yeah, Miami. So, tale of 2 cities. Why did Miami? Miami is a fintech hub today. How did this happen? Well, it happened because of all of these reasons: innovation specialization, venture development. Venture capitalists have moved into Miami. They're investing in fintech startups. These, private equity firms have moved to Miami. So I haven't met too many yet in Atlantic City. So why is that? Well, cities getting it right face the future. 2 tails. Cities getting it right deal with societal issues. Lagging infrastructure, weak internet access, blight, crime, drug addiction, poverty. These are big issues. Atlantic City, you can see the poverty rate there compared to the other cities. I'm not picking on Atlantic City. I'm actually very optimistic about Atlantic City. Okay, so what are the big picture issues nationwide? We have seen a number of manufacturing jobs go away. This is about a Rust Belt rebuild. So what's the challenge? The challenge is 8% of jobs today are in factories. It used to be 1/3. So where are all those workers? You got to retrain all these workers now. Okay, chip production. We've all been hearing about semiconductors, right? And chips. Okay, well, chip production has also diminished in the United States, but we're trying to rebuild it now, and that's part of the Rust Belt rebuild. And so there's training that's going on. We need a lot more training. Anyone who's looking for a career path, hey, engineering, semiconductors. We need 50,000 of them in the United States. Mayors can make a big difference in a city's comeback. I've met all of these people along the way. They're all mayors. And they are all contributed to their city's comeback in a big way, because it takes vision, leadership, steps forward. And this is Pittsburgh, Dayton, Flint, Cleveland, Milwaukee, and my hometown, Lancaster, Ohio. All of them have leaders, mayoral leaders who are making a difference. But you also have to have change makers. It can't just be politicians. It can't be policy makers. It's got to be people who are grassroots people who can make a difference. John Chambers is giving back to West Virginia, his home state. Albert Ratner, Mr. Cleveland, giving back to Appalachia. Dave Bawani at Carnegie Mellon University. These are all people that I have met and interviewed and I think are making a big difference. And okay, here to localize it, we recognize a few people here, don't we? Okay, there's Louis, there's Hannah, Evan Sanchez, Elizabeth Taranek, and Andrew Wilgus. And anyone, there's several other of them right here. I just didn't get your photo yet, so stay tuned for your photo. Okay, these are community builders who are very, very important. Okay, I'm just going to run through a few other slides about my journey. Flint, vehicle city, GM, population 190,000 to 81,000. What's the future of Flint? They've got to find their way. Okay, old industries, glass, grain, steel, oil, coal. They got to find their way, and they are. All of these places, which are represented here. That's Buffalo in the middle. With there's 20 grain elevators left in Buffalo. There's got to be future. The other one is Pittsburgh, the last steel mill in Pittsburgh. What's the future? The future is places like Central Ohio, where Google's building its new data center, where Intel's building its new semiconductor facility. That's where I'm from, Central Ohio. So I've seen it in a big way. I've mentioned Youngstown already, from steel to 3D printing. There's an entire campus downtown of 5 buildings in Youngstown that's devoted to advanced manufacturing, which is also known as 3D printing. Okay, in my hometown area, where I grew up, Ironton. Why was it called Ironton? Well, because, it was iron, right? And so now today it's all about sustainability because of P&G. So from iron to a new startup, which is a plastics recycling startup that has licensed technology from P&G. They're in the book. Pittsburgh, aerospace and robotics. This entrepreneur here is taking a spaceship to the moon to look for water. That's one of the futures of Pittsburgh. Biotech in West Virginia and Cleveland. There's Cleveland Clinic, and this is the West Virginia Rockefeller Neurological Institute. This is the future. It's no longer coal and steel. You've got to go to new technology. Lordstown, the former GM plant. Now they're calling that area Voltage Valley. From steel to Voltage Valley. It's a lot of new electrical vehicle companies moving in. Okay, the U.S. industrial policy. This has been strengthened in just the past few years. A number of regional tech hubs are getting lots more money from the federal government. It's trickling down. We're going to be hearing about that from Jim and others as well. We're seeing a rebuild of our infrastructure. We're seeing semiconductor production come back. This is all very, very positive. And that is the Secretary of Commerce at a meeting that I was in recently in DC, and she is very much on the switch there. with getting the money doled out to regions like Atlantic City. Okay, what's the backdrop? China. Oh boy, China rivalry. All right, you've heard. If you've read any of my work before, you may have noticed this trend of China getting ahead in a number of ways, and the US-China tensions that are rising as a result. Okay, so what are we trying to do here? The Heartland has this bad image of flyover country. It's boring, nothing ever happens there. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to make from flyover country to fly to places. And, Atlantic City is trying to be part of that too. It wants to be a drive to place or a fly to place. It wants to get rid of the culture of diminished expectations. It wants to encourage risk-taking. It wants to increase venture capital, angel, government money. It needs to attract and retain talent. It needs to rely on anchors like Stockton and even the casinos here. It's an anchor for this economy. But at the same time, we need to diversify. So we're going to be talking today about what your future is. What's your view of Atlantic City's future? What are you doing to improve things?